Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the cold spell that has now arrived and is looking likely to be pretty locked in for the next couple of weeks. We're likely to see colder than average temperatures last all the way into December, with an increasing risk of winteriness and snow, of course, as that air does slowly decrease in temperatures simply as we progress further and further into winter. There is the risk of some snow next week, which we will continue to have a look at the moment, but I must say it is looking extremely marginal, where we could come out with absolutely nothing and some rain in places, but equally some areas could actually get buried from the looks of some of the latest runs. So in today's video we'll have a look at the latest of the next sort of week or so, looking at the precipitation and the temperatures, as it is looking really quite cold, apart from maybe Sunday, Monday, where we see some briefly milder air. Apart from that, very cold. That is looking quite widespread. The risk of some snow maybe through Wednesday to Friday, and then the longer term, which is still quite uncertain, is looking still pretty locked in terms of colder weather. We just don't know exactly what will entail with that, how cold it will be, and whether we'll see more areas of precipitation. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, which you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see it is a dry day so far. A few showers along the east coast, but they are moving generally southwards, so really only clipping the far east coast. Again, could have a few areas of bit of snow in it, some growlpool, sleet within this, but we're not looking at anything too major. Just classic wintry showers just clipping the east coast. Elsewhere, it's widely dry and sunny, as we've got very cold air, dry air, meaning very few clouds in the sky, making it a really quite pleasant early winter day. The only caveat with that is it is cold. I must say, this morning it's been very cold, with many areas waking up to their first widespread frost of the season. Temperatures got down to around -5 to -7 degrees in the coldest spots. We'll actually have a look at those temperatures in a minute. And even this afternoon, as I'm recording this, temperatures struggling to get much above 5 or 6 degrees. And that is only going to be on a downwards trend, especially as we progress into next week. Not because any majorly cold air is arriving, but simply because the ground temperatures are going to be slowly losing any of their residual summer heat, and generally colder air sitting over the top of us for longer. It does build that cold layer at the surface to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and that does mean that these temperatures will slowly descend towards the low single digits quite widely as we do progress into next week. Now, this afternoon you can see the temperatures as around lunchtime are still quite cold. You can see the lighter blues here, which is temperatures struggling to get much above freezing for many highland areas of Wales, northern England, and up towards Scotland. You can see some briefly yellowy patches, again indicating temperatures are maybe around that 6 or 7 degree mark, maybe towards eastern areas and towards the south and the west, where we still have a little bit of milder air lingering. But the coldest air is now in place, and it will get pushed away, as I said, through Sunday and Monday, but then will return with a vengeance into next week, where things could get even colder and, as I said, turn wintry as well. Now, if we go over to NetWeather, we can see the minimum temperatures from a lot of the weather stations here. Again, it's not every weather station, but it is quite a few of them, and you can see it's up and down the country. Cairngorm Summit, we saw -4.5 degrees. You can see here Exeter got down to -5. That is looking very cold indeed. I don't know if that's actually an anomaly. I can't believe -5 down in Exeter from the first day of the cold spell. Glasgow, -5 degrees as well. And you can see it's all falling around the 7 or 8 a.m. point. So just before sunrise, just showing you that the temperatures were plummeting last night from quite a high position, around 8 or 9 degree mark, around the 3 or 4 p.m. mark. So losing around 15 degrees overnight in some areas. And of course, not climbing much above 5 or 6 degrees today. We are expecting another quite widespread frost tonight, especially for eastern and northern areas. Further westwards and southwards, we could see cloud pushing in, and that's associated with the rain and milder air coming through tomorrow and Monday, so there is a little bit of uncertainty with that, but we'll look at that now with the UKV. So you can see the latest UKV showing lots of sunshine through this afternoon. A few showers around, but nothing too crazy. Cloud building in from the west overnight tonight, and a bit of rain starting to progress in from the west as we do start to see that milder air just temporarily pushing in. Now through Sunday, you can see this rain moving in, and you think perhaps some of this could fall as snow as we do see cold wear still in place, but it is a pretty slow progress of this rainfall, and that basically allows the milder air to kind of undercut it. It means when this precipitation moves in, most of it will be falling as rain. As it does progress in, it will give rain and cloud for quite a widespread area across England and Wales, up towards Northern Ireland, maybe even getting into parts of Scotland here. But even though it is milder air and it's rain, it is still going to feel pretty cold. The actual surface temperatures are not going to actually increase all too much through tomorrow and Monday, and that is because the cloud and the rain is trapping that cold layer of air at the surface, till meaning temperatures maybe around only 3 to 5 degrees in places tomorrow, and the feel-like temperature will be even colder than that. As we progress through Sunday night into Monday, you can see the northerly wind or easterly wind starting to re-emerge. Snow showers starting up again in Scotland, and that rain will slowly peel away into the North Sea, out back towards Europe, and there could be a bit of back-edge snow across some higher ground in northern England, but again, I wouldn't expect anything too major with that. Through Monday afternoon, it'll be touch and go how quickly that rain moves and clears in the southeast, and then we start to see showers packing in. Here you can see it's a mix of rain, sleet and snow, and again it will just be a wintry mix, so could be some snow in the heavier pulses, could equally be some rain, some sleet, grauple, hail, all mixed in a bit of an eclectic mix. As we progress through Monday into Tuesday, we continue to see those easterly winds come in. Again, could be some snow within some of these showers. Wouldn't expect anything accumulating at this stage as the surface temperatures are still above freezing. But we are looking at perhaps some falling snow. Even in the southeast, there is the risk of falling snow. Again, it would be dependent on things like dew points and exact temperatures within the lower levels of the atmosphere, which at the moment are very, very marginal indeed. So I wouldn't take any single precipitation chart, or at least with its precipitation typing, too literally. As we progress beyond Tuesday into Wednesday, we start to see lower pressure trying to bump in from the west, and this is going to give the risk of some wider spread snowfall. Here, though, you can see that the precipitation is further northwards, and what this means is milder air gets in for much of England and Wales, perhaps giving some snow across northern England, maybe parts of the Republic of Ireland here. But elsewhere, milder air coming back in, or at least less cold air. It's still actually below average temperatures, even in the south here. Less cold air moving in, meaning rainfall. I must say, though, from the looks of some other runs, which we'll look at over the next sort of 10 or 15 minutes or so, this is very, very uncertain. Some runs keeping this low pressure all the way out in the Atlantic still. Some runs just clipping the channel, all making some very subtle changes in the positioning of the low, creating big differences at the surface. Some of these runs giving 7 degrees and rain in London, some of the runs giving 1 degree and snow in London. So these are the sort of marginal things that we have to look at in this sort of pattern. And that's why I said there is the risk of snow next week, but there's also the risk of seeing absolutely nothing in places because of systems like this, which are highly unpredictable at this time frame. If you do look at the upper air temperatures, you can see cold air is in at the moment. It's slowly going to get shoved away by that slightly milder air through Sunday into Monday. And then again, the cold air is going to return with a vengeance through Monday into Tuesday. Again, it doesn't actually look too cold initially through Monday, but the properly cold air arrives again for Tuesday. And again, it's all dependent on the depth of this cold. How cold will that air be once it gets over the warm North Sea? And that, again, those are the things that the models are struggling to decipher. But by Wednesday to Thursday, cold air is moving in, and eventually you can see that slightly less cold air in for England and Wales. But again, this boundary could be a few hundred miles further southwards from the looks of some of the other runs today. If you do look at the Emacs temperatures, you can see through this afternoon temperatures really struggling again. 4 to 6 degrees quite widely, perhaps even colder than that over the higher ground further northwards. As we progress into Sunday, again, a widespread frost, especially where we see clearer skies, and then into Sunday afternoon. Even though the upper air temperatures are actually warming up quite significantly, the surface temperatures still maybe only 2 to 6 degrees. Behind the rain, across the Republic of Ireland, we're seeing 10 to 12 degrees. That's the difference. Once that rain moves through, then the temperatures will increase. But for those areas in England and Wales, by the time the rain moves through, it's pulling away again, and then we're seeing the colder air return. So yes, milder air coming in for about 24 hours or so, but not giving anything particularly mild at the surface. As we progress beyond that through Sunday into Monday afternoon, we could see temperatures maybe around 5 or 6 degrees again, but then the colder air returns with more of a vengeance into Tuesday. Again, we're looking at 4 to maybe 7 degrees, and then overnight frosts start to really return on Wednesday. So you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, the cold air is returning, but it does make pretty slow progress in deepening that cold. Really, with only the coldest stuff arriving widely on Wednesday and Thursday, which then complicates the issues with Thursday's potential snowfall with that rain and precipitation moving in. Now through Wednesday, you can see the temperatures in the afternoon. Northern areas where we have cold air established now, widely not getting above freezing. Further southwards, it's marginal. It's around 2 to 5 degrees across sort of the central belt of England and Wales. The southwest, 7 or 8 degrees. So you can see this sort of gradient of going from average to below average to very cold further northwards. And again, all makes a difference when we see precipitation bump into this. And then finally into Thursday night, you can see where the boundary is between the slightly less cold air through England and Wales and the very cold air, the bitterly cold air across Scotland, where it is widely down towards -3 or -4 degrees. And again, won't take this chart too literally. These areas and the boundaries are going to shift a lot in the next couple of days. Could end up here, could end up further northwards, could end up much further southwards as well. Now, if we do progress and have a look at some of the longer range patterns, we'll have a look at the latest GFS, and it will give us a good indication of what could happen in the next week, but what could happen in the longer term as well. Now you can see the northerly wind is getting cut off at the moment. That low pressure is running in off the Atlantic through Sunday and Monday, giving that slightly milder conditions for eventually the northeasterly winds arrive once again. So it's very cold. You can see the lower pressure developing through Wednesday to Thursday, sliding down the west coast. And here you can see it is further south to westwards than the UKV had it. And that would mean there would be more snowfall associated with this. And again, we'll have a look at those precipitation charts in a minute. Now, one thing we are seeing from this latest GFS run is the block actually moves too far northwards. This actually allows a southwesterly wind to come in. So this would cut off that cold air into the first couple of days of December, turning us still blocked in the north, but actually for the UK it's more westerly based. Even though the blocking hasn't really gone anywhere, it's just moved to positions that are not favouring colder air development in the UK. I must say though, we'll have a look at the ensembles in a minute, it is a bit of an outlier in terms of the ensembles. The majority, I'd say about 3/4, do still keep that very cold air into the first full week of December. So a bit of a GFS run going slightly off kilt in the longer term, but again, it is a scenario that we can't discount at this stage. Though I do think even this GFS run gives cold air in for at least 7 to 10 days, but I do think perhaps longer than that is looking pretty possible and even quite likely at the moment. Now, if you do look at the precipitation charts from this latest GFS run, if we do move to Wednesday when the risk of snowfall does increase, you can see snow bump into Scotland and northern England there through Wednesday evening, giving snow in places. And then you can see the associated weather front with this system even giving snowfall in the east there as it bumps into that cold air. But it is again very marginal, as we do see milder air coming in from the west colliding with that cold air from the east. As we progress beyond that, that low slides down to our southwest, and again could see more snowfall in northern Wales, the Midlands, northern England, as this does clear before eventually we see the easterly winds return and more snow showers coming in from the northeast before eventually gets cut off there very quickly by this GFS run. But again, at this stage, most runs are actually keeping that colder air in for longer. Now, the GEM and the Eastern OF are both much colder than that GFS run, especially in the longer term. And you can see again the lower pressure moving in over the coming hours, but developing milder conditions through Sunday and Monday. But eventually, like the GFS, the northeasterly winds arrive once again by Tuesday, and then we see that low pressure run down through the south, and again, very similar track to the GFS, potentially giving some marginal snow in places before moving out to our southeast and continuing to push in northeasterly winds. Now, at this stage, the GFS had the Atlantic breaking through, but the GEM is keeping the bitterly cold northeasterly winds coming straight in from Scandinavia and keeping us very cold but probably pretty dry with those isobars quite stretched out and no real low pressure systems nearby. So would be a lot colder than the GFS, but probably would have less precipitation. But as I said, there is the risk of disturbances, things like that, popping up at very short notice. But you see all the way to day 10 here, we're still engulfed in the -10 the -5 isotherm, -10 isotherm feeding this air. And if we do have a look at these humidity temperatures at midnight here, widely below freezing. And if we go to the daytime temperatures, you can see quite a few areas are struggling to get much above 1 or 2 degrees at midday here through the first few days of December. And we will have a look at the precipitation charts, but look at this. This is midday on the 4th of December and quite a widespread nature of snowfall here. Again, I wouldn't take these too literally, but it does give us an example of where we could see falling snow in this sort of pattern. The GEM, yes, has less precipitation than the GFS, but more of its precipitation would be snow because that cold air is getting drawn in more and the low pressures are slightly further southwards. And if we do have a look at the raw precipitation charts from the GEM, if we do move to next week, you can see that low pressure moving in through Wednesday and Thursday. Again, giving snowfall across northern areas initially, but then potentially giving some snow across the Midlands, northern England, maybe more rain across southern and southeastern parts. But once that low clears, we could see some back edge snow as colder air does pull back in from the North Sea, and then eventually we see lots of snow showers coming in from the east. You can see these sort of streamer patterns indicating lots of wintry showers coming in on that very strong easterly wind. And then as we progress generally beyond that, we could see more disturbances, and this is where we could see isolated areas of snowfall developing, significant in places, but again fairly isolated as it does eventually clear through in this very unstable and cold north to northeasterly flow. So GEM, yes, less precipitation, but definitely looks colder with more of its precipitation falling as snow, especially in the longer term. You have to check out the last longer range one we'll have a look at today, which is the ECMWF. Again, probably from many the most highly regarded model. Again, low pressure moving through, and we can see northeasterly winds return by Tuesday into Wednesday. That low pressure develops, but look at it, it's so much further southwards than the GM and even the GFS, and significantly further southwards than the UKV has gone. Just highlighting the uncertainty in sort of 5 or 6 days. That low pressure well to our south actually allows a very unstable and cold northeasterly wind to continue. And as we head towards day 10, look at this, we continue to stay blocked with a northeasterly wind, but it's not blocked enough like the GEM to sort of just keep a northeasterly flow. What this would do is try to push in areas of low pressure from the Atlantic. Under this block, it could turn potentially cold and potentially even more snowy as we see these milder wedges trying to bring in weather fronts and potentially precipitation. But look out to our northeast. All this cold air, this really deep cold air is developing. And what this would mean is if we developed further pulses of colder air or colder plunges as we head into the middle of December, they would be significantly colder than what we're seeing now, simply because that cold air is collating to our northeast. If we go back to now, very cold air to our northeast, but it's nowhere near as deep as it gets in around 10 days' time, highlighting what I said at the start of the video, which is that the more we progress, the colder the pattern will get, simply because colder air towards the UK, it will deepen, simply because the ground temperatures will cool down. But not only that, but we will see generally colder air develop further northwards and eastwards as well, meaning that easterly or northerly wind will progressively get a few degrees colder sort of every week or two. We go on as we progress sort of towards the coldest sort of time of the year, which is January, February time. Now, if we do have a look at the latest ECMWF precipitation charts, we can see that we've got that rain moving through on Monday. A bit of actually snow mixing in here for northern England, but as it moves through, we're not expecting anything too major. Beyond that, lots of snow showers through Tuesday into Wednesday along the east coast, but getting cut off as we see that wind veer more northerly. And then eventually we see that another low pressure system move in. And look, the precipitation stays quite far away, maybe impacting western parts or parts of the Republic of Ireland and southwestern England, but most areas actually avoiding that at all. And we could actually see a bit of lingering snow developing on its northern edge across southern England. And again, because it's that much further southwards, more of this would be falling as snow as we have got colder air wrapped in. Beyond that, we see more snow showers pushing in from the northeast and continued development. And look at this, even a bit of a small localised low pressure system giving some heavier snowfall across the east coast there as we develop beyond that. And all the way into the extended range, we stay cold and wintry with plenty of showers and potential disturbances moving in. And as I said, in the longer term, it's these sort of systems out to our west we need to keep a close eye on as we are very cold in the UK. This pattern, this weather front, pushing in could start to give us potentially snowfall there. And you can see temperatures widely below freezing, very mild down to the Atlantic. This collision, as I said, could be very interesting into the longer term, but that is 10 plus days away. So again, we'll look at that in more detail if it does come to fruition. Now, just to finish up, if we have a look at the ensembles, we can see the sustained cold weather over the next couple of weeks. So yes, brief milder bump in the next day or two, and then it goes below average for around Monday, Tuesday, and then stays there all the way to around the 5th of December, which is the 10-day time frame, which even at this stage we wouldn't think is that reliable, but the majority of ensemble members are there. You see the operational run, as I said, does go pretty mild, but you can see the majority of runs hold that cold for at least another 3 or 4 days, if not longer. You can see increased precipitation through the early part of December, indicating the increased risk. Not only seeing some marginal snow, but potentially even some widespread snow. If that cold air does get fully established, the 2 metre temperatures are looking colder by the day, down towards 3 or 4 degrees here from the ensemble members, and more of the ensemble members are decreasing those overnight temperatures. And again, I suspect these temperatures will lower further as we do move to nearer the time. And the dew points is the biggest thing really at this stage for snowfall, or one of the biggest things, because what we can see is because the sea surface temperatures are so warm, it can increase those dew points as that cold air moves in. And that's why when we're looking at potential snow next Thursday, Friday, dew points could be a bit of an issue. As you can see here, it is very marginal. It's kind of a 50-50 here between the ensemble members, but the majority of time apart from that, much of the ensemble members are below freezing. And if we finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, you can see they're actually even more bullish with a colder pattern towards around the 5th, 6th of December. And you can see more of them are very cold latter part of next week, perhaps favouring an even further southerly track of that lower pressure. So if you are potentially looking at some more snow on Thursday, Friday, or you're looking forward to some snow on Thursday and Friday, the ECMWF, for once, actually does look like the colder and potentially snowier pattern than the GFS. Longer term, yes, milder runs appearing, but out to at least a reliable time frame, which is the next week, or even unreliable time frame out to the next 10 or 12 days, it is still looking really quite cold. So it's now looking highly likely we're in a pretty locked-in cold pattern for the next week to potentially 2 weeks. Snowfall is looking like there is potential, but at this stage it is going to be very marginal in the next sort of 5 to 7 days. But as we progress beyond that into the early part of December, it will become less and less marginal and more likely as the depth of cold does increase. But it is going to be a very interesting watch. It's going to be probably a pretty frustrating watch as well, as we are going to see lots of flip-flopping from the models, lots of milder sort of patterns with low pressure pushing northwards. We'll see some very cold patterns, and we'll all have to keep a very close eye on this as this does progress. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to the video as I have some more updates out over the next few days, with hopefully a bit more concrete info on exactly how it will play out instead of more speculative, which we're doing now because of the uncertainty. But I'll see you again for another video soon.